The next component that makes up the JavaFX core is the scene component, the scene class. And so the scene class, this is a relatively short class. Here, you'll see that it's only 7 slides long. But everything that gets viewed on a stage is a scene. So let's just briefly run through what the roles and responsibilities of a scene in JavaFX is of all the core components. So here, a quick overview of this video. We'll talk about the introduction of a scene. We'll look at how to create a scene, how to set a scene on the stage. We'll talk about the scene graph and the scene mouse cursor. And then we'll take and look at one demo of a scene inside of IntelliJ, and then we can just move on after that. There's a lot of content to cover with JavaFX. So a quick introduction here is that the JavaFX scene object is the root of the JavaFX scene graph. So in other words, the JavaFX scene contains all the visual JavaFX GUI components inside of it. So a JavaFX scene is represented by the class JavaFX.scene. So scene is the package, and an uppercase scene is going to be the class. So a scene object has to be set on a JavaFX stage to be visible. And so in the JavaFX scene lecture, I'll show you how to create a scene object and add a GUI component to it. We've already seen that, in fact, in the prior lecture. So let's talk about creating a scene. So you create a JavaFX scene object via its constructor. A parameter you must pass the root JavaFX GUI component that is to act as the root view to be displayed inside the scene. So notice every time we've been building a scene, we've been making a layout element. So we've just been using a vertical box, a VBox. We've been making an empty VBox a lot of times just to create an empty scene, but that scene needs at least a layout element for us to define it. And that layout element will represent the root of our graph of what's contained inside the scene. So in order to make a JavaFX scene visible, it must be set on a JavaFX stage. Here's an example of setting a JavaFX scene onto a stage. So if we were to create a new vertical box, and let's say we actually add something into that vertical box, so we're going to create a new label. So that's an actual JavaFX element. And so on the label, we give it some text. So we'll give it the text, a JavaFX label, which is now inside of our layout element, which is a vertical box. And then we'll save that instance of a vertical box. Then we're going to pass that vertical box into our scene. Then we're going to create a stage. And then on the stage, we can call the set scene method and pass the scene there. So JavaFX scene can be attached to only a single stage at a time. And the stage can only display one scene at a time. So a scene can only belong to one stage at a time, and a stage can only show one scene at a time. So let's talk a little bit about the scene graph. As mentioned in the overview that we covered a couple videos ago, the scene graph consists of all the nodes which are attached to a given JavaFX scene object. Each scene object has its own scene graph. And so the scene graph has a single root node, right? That's like our entry point. Other nodes can be attached to the root in a tree-like data structure. And so a tree is kind of like a graph, right? But it's a very particular type of graph, right? You don't have cycles in a tree where you might have cycles in a graph, which means that there's only like one direction well, usually you have a root, and then you can go down the route towards multiple paths. Okay, let's talk about one property that we're going to look at in terms of our scene. So the mouse cursor. So it is possible to set the mouse cursor of a JavaFX scene. The mouse cursor is that little icon that's being displayed at the location of the mouse cursor. That's your pointer. You can set the mouse cursor of a scene via the set cursor method. So here's an example of the mouse cursor of a JavaFX scene if we want an open hand. So again, we have this cursor class, which contains lots of constants that you can use to specify which mouse cursor you want to display. And so a number of the constant cursors that you can use to set your cursor in a scene can be an open hand or closed hand or crosshair, or the default, which is usually an arrow, or just a hand, or like a weight symbol, or a text. You can add text or move or vertical resize or horizontal resize. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So what I'm going to do here, let's close out what we have there. Oh no, didn't want to really close out what I had there. Oh well. Let's go to scene here. And let me go to my example runner. Okay, so here, inside of my scene cursor example here, inside the start method, we're going to create a vertical box. We're going to create a new scene and pass that vertical box. And then I have all of my set cursor options here pretty much commented out. I'm going to use the hand one. And I can toggle between these, but I think I'll just show one as a proof of concept. So let me go here to scene. And here we're going to and let's go ahead and import that so we can run our main method there inside our scene cursor example. And we'll wait for this to spin up and launch. And here, notice now my cursor is a hand, whereas it's typically an arrow. So just know you have lots of controls over the cursor inside of your JavaFX application. Excellent. And that's really all I really want to cover with scene by itself.